Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a 2004 fantasy film directed by Alfonso Cuarón and distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures, based on J.K. Rowling's 1999 novel of the same name. Produced by Chris Columbus, David Heyman and Mark Radcliffe, and written by Steve Kloves, it is the sequel to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and the third installment in the Harry Potter film series. The film stars Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, Rupert Grint as Ron Weasley, and Emma Watson as Hermione Granger. The film follows Harry's third year at Hogwarts and his quest to uncover the truth about his past, including the connection to recently escaped Azkaban prisoner Sirius Black has to Harry and his late parents. With The Prisoner of Azkaban, production on Harry Potter films switched to an 18-month cycle. Cuarón was selected as director from a shortlist that included Kelly Correa and Kenneth Branagh. The cast of previous installments returned for this film, with the additions of Gary Oldman, David Thewlis and Emma Thompson, among others. It was the first appearance of Michael Gambon as Professor Albus Dumbledore due to Richard Harris's death in 2002. Principal photography began in February 2003 at the Leviston Film Studios. It was the first in the series to extensively use real-life locations, with sets built in Scotland and scenes shot in London. Filming concluded on November 2003. The film was released on the 31st of May 2004 in the United Kingdom and on the 4th of June 2004 in North America, and as the first Harry Potter film, used IMAX technology and released in IMAX theatres. Prisoner of Azkaban grossed a total of $797 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing film of 2004, and received praise for Cuarón's direction and the lead actors' performances. The film is credited for making a notable change in the franchise's tone and directorial style, and is often considered by critics and fans alike as one of the best Harry Potter films. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Original Music Score and Best Visual Effects at the 77th Academy Awards in 2004. It was followed by Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in 2005. Now, all of the previous cast members from the first 2 films returned and reprised their roles in this film, with, of course, the exception of Michael Gambon, who now plays Albus Dumbledore. He's the headmaster of Hogwarts and one of the greatest wizards of all time. Gambon assumed the role after Richard Harris, who played Dumbledore in the previous 2 films, died of Hodgkin's disease on the 25th of October 2002, 3 weeks before the second film's release. Despite his illness, Harris was determined to film his part, telling a visiting David Heyman not to recast the role. 4 months after Harris's death, Cuarón chose Gambon as his replacement. Gambon was unconcerned with bettering or copying Harris, giving his own interpretation instead, but putting on a slight Irish accent for the role, as paying homage to Harris. He completed his scenes in 3 weeks. The producers originally offered the role to Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen, but scheduling conflicts forced Lee to decline, while McKellen turned it down as he had played the similar character of Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He also stated it would have been inappropriate for him to take Harris's role, as he had called McKellen a dreadful actor. Harris and family had expressed an interest in seeing Harris's close friend Peter O'Toole being chosen as replacement, but the producers felt that his age and health would become troublesome down the line. Gary Oldman plays Sirius Black, Harry's infamous godfather, who escaped from the wizarding prison Azkaban after serving 12 years there for being falsely accused of being the Death Eater who betrayed Harry's parents to Voldemort. Oldman accepted the part because he needed the money, as he had not taken on any major work in several years, after deciding to spend more time with his children. He was surprised by how difficult it was to pull off the role, comparing it to one of his Shakespearean dialogues. Then we had David Thewlis as Remus Lupin, the new Defense Against the Dark's arts teacher at Hogwarts, and also a werewolf. Thewlis had previously auditioned for the role of Cornelius Quirrell in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 2001, but was Cuarón's first choice for the role of Professor Lupin. He accepted the role on advice from Ian Hart, who was cast as Quirrell, and had told him that Professor Lupin was one of the best parts in the book. Thewlis, who had seen the first 2 films, had only read part of the first book, although after taking the role, he read the complete third novel. We also have Timothy Spall as Peter Pettigrew, a former friend of Harry's parents said to have been killed by Sirius Black, but was later revealed to have been the real Death Eater who betrayed Harry's parents to Voldemort. Also, there's Emma Thompson as Sybil Trelawney, the divination teacher at Hogwarts. One of the other big changes for this film is, of course, the new director in Alfonso Cuarón, replacing Chris Columbus from the first 2 films. Columbus decided to not return to direct the third film, as he hadn't seen his own kids for supper in the week for about 2.5 years, he said. Even so, Columbus remained as a producer alongside Heyman, and Columbus felt that such capacity offered him a better work-life balance, allowing him to not be present on set all the time and spend more time with his family. Guillermo del Toro was approached to direct, but had envisioned more of a Dickinson version of the stories and was put off by the first 2 films, which he found too bright and happy and full of light. Mark Foster turned down the film because he had made Finding Neverland in 2004, and did not want to direct child actors again. M. Night Shyamalan was considered to direct, but turned it down because he was working on his own film, The Village. Warner Brothers then composed a 3-name shortlist for Columbus's replacement, which consisted of Kaylee Curie, Kenneth Branagh, of course, who had played Gilderoy Lockhart in Chamber of Secrets, and the eventual selection of Alfonso Cuarón in July 2002. Cuarón was initially reluctant to direct, as he had not read any of the books or seen the films. Del Toro berated him for his arrogance and told him to read the books. After reading the series, he changed his mind and signed on to direct, as he had immediately connected to the story. Cuarón's appointment pleased J.K. Rowling, who had loved his film Et tu m'aimas bien, and was also impressed with his adaptation of A Little Princess in 1995. As his first exercise with the actors who play the central trio, Cuarón assigned Radcliffe, Grint and Watson to write an autobiographical essay about their characters, written in the first person, spanning birth to the discovery of the magical world, and including the characters' emotional experience. Cuarón recalls Emma's essay was 10 pages long, Daniel's was 2, and Rupert didn't even deliver the essay. When I questioned why he didn't do it, he said, "I'm Ron. Ron wouldn't do it." So I said, "Okay, you understand your character." And that was the most important piece of acting work that we did on Prisoner of Azkaban, because it was very clear that everything they put on those essays was going to be pillars as to who they were going forward. Now let's discuss the differences between the film and the novel. Prisoner of Azkaban at the time was the longest publication in the series. The increasing plot complexity necessitated a looser adaptation of the book's finer plot lines and backstory. The connection between Harry's parents and the Marauders' map is only briefly mentioned, as is Remus Lupin's association to the map. Additionally, it was never mentioned who the Marauders were, or who the nicknames Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs referred to. Some exposition was removed for dramatic effect. Both the Shrieking Shack and Scabbers the Rat are mentioned only briefly in the film, while they receive much more thorough coverage in the novel. Most of Sirius Black's backstory is also cut, with no mention of how he escaped from Azkaban. On account of pace and timing considerations, the film glosses over detailed descriptions of magical education. Only one hippogriff, Buckbeak, is seen, and only Malfoy and Harry are seen interacting with the hippogriff during the Care of Magical Creatures lesson, and most of the other lessons, including Snape's potion classes, were cut from the film. The Fiddler's Charm's complicated description is removed entirely from the film, with no explanation given of how exactly Sirius is supposed to have betrayed the Potters to Lord Voldemort. Many of these scenes' lines are redistributed among Cornelius Fudge and Professor McGonagall in composition. McGonagall's exposition of the Animagus transformation is instead given by Snape. The romantic connection between Ron and Hermione is more prominent in this film than in the book, in response to criticism of the first two films for sacrificing character development for mystery and adventure, and the emotional development of all three lead characters is given more attention in the third film. However, any mention of Harry's crush on Cho Chang is removed, and she first appears only in the fourth film. Prisoner of Azkaban shows a darker tone and more of Harry's emotions. For instance, after learning of Black's betrayal of Harry's parents, he shouts in anger, "I'm going to kill him," whereas in the book, he's too stunned to move. Now, frankly, I loved the new direction of this third film, and Alfonso Cuarón really adds a gravitas to the Harry Potter series. He triumphantly strikes a delicate balance between the technical wizardry and the complex storytelling that is so pivotal to this series. This film is conducted in a much more mature tone, and it was much more dark, much more complex, much more rooted in character. I almost felt this film could stand on its own, and even if you hadn't followed the whole of J.K. Rowling's series, you could just watch this and enjoy it for itself. Completely nuanced, yet frightening at times, this complex story will definitely take you on a journey. And Cuarón is not afraid to take this children's novel and turn it into a much darker film, which tackles painful emotions and develops its characters to show another side to Harry and his friends. I also loved the casting of Gary Oldman. He's a superb actor, and he just adds a new element to the films, as well as David Thewlis. For me, these are two great casting choices, and it just brings a more serious tone to the Harry Potter universe. Now, Cuarón is an Oscar-winning director, and you can see the difference between a director of his stature versus a Columbus, for example. I'm just sorry he didn't go on to direct any more of the Harry Potter films. Spellbinding, dark, and much more serious. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban gets an 8.5 out of 10.